Terry, the TV kind of showed Matt Harvey in between the innings before the ninth going, no way, no way. What was your side of that discussion and just kind of your thoughts on that decision there?
Well, I told him that, we were going to go, that was enough, and he just came over and he said, I want this game. I want it bad. You got to leave me in. And I said, Matty, you've got us exactly where we wanted to get you. And he said, I want this game, in the worst way. And so, obviously, I let my heart get in the way of my gut. And, I love my players, and I trust them. And so I said, go get them out. And he went out, and, the leadoff walk started it off. But, if you're going to let him just face one guy, you shouldn't have sent him out there. So when the double hit, then that's when I said, well, we got to see if we can get out of this with only one run. And didn't work. So it was my fault.
Next question for back here on the right.
Terry, obviously it's in the immediate aftermath of the loss, but can you reflect on the season and some of the accomplishments?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Tremendous year. I just told the players, I've done this for a long, long time, and this is the most fun I've ever had in all the years. A tremendous season, all you had to deal with, but tremendous guys to be around. Great experience. I'm very, very proud of them. As you guys know, last March or last June, no one would ever said we were going to be sitting where we are today. And I congratulate the Royals. They played absolutely great. Ned's done a tremendous job. He deserves a lot of credit, and they've done a great job in their organization. We just, we couldn't get it done, and we're hoping to get another chance at it.
And all the way to the far left, Joel.
Terry, two things on the decision in the ninth. Was the crowd any factor? Like the thought is, if you don't send Harvey out, you're going to kind of drain some of the life and energy out of the ballpark. And
so, to start out, just to answer that part of the question, I try not to let the crowd influence me. What I want is the players. And when you looked in this kid's eyes when he came off that inning, and he's been through a tough summer. He's been beaten down, and I just trusted him, and I said, you got it. You've earned this, so go get him. And it's my fault. It's not his. That's who he is. I know better than that. I know that he wants the ball. He never wants to come out. And he was pitching good. He was throwing the ball great. But we got in the spot where we wanted to get to, and we talked about it all day yesterday and all day today. But this is my fault.
And right here on the right again.
Terry, after I'm guessing scouting guys like Eric Hosmer or Mike Moustakas, how hard is it when a guy like Christian Colon, who hasn't had a single at-bat in the postseason, comes up with a huge hit like that?
Well, I will tell you, the one thing, somebody's got to come through, and you almost, get yourself in a situation where, hey, look, if you're going to face somebody, that's one guy you want to face. Somebody who hasn't played much. It doesn't make it feel any better if Eric Hosmer gets the hit because he's one of the best players in baseball. So it is what it is. We just we just didn't we didn't do much offensively. And so had we been able to do a little bit more, we wouldn't have had to get to that point.
And right here to the left, Kevin.
Terry, on the defensive side of the ball, was it their pressure, the way they played the game, put more pressure on your defense and some of the defensive mistakes you made throughout the season?
Well, Kevin, at the big leagues, I think at the major league level, certainly you shouldn't be intimidated by the fact that they have speed. We know that. We've played teams that have speed before. But the game speeds up, and when they are certainly very dangerous, and you got to be cautious of them. Does it wear on the pitcher a little bit? It might. Knowing you got Dyson sitting in second base, who's, you're just waiting for him to go to third. So, all right, does it take your concentration off the hitter a little bit? Maybe. Shouldn't, but certainly human nature said it could. So, but again, we should have not been in those situations. We should have got some runs earlier.
And all the way.
He's out. Good throw. He's out. I don't think there's any question. Luke's got a great arm and just made threw the ball wide.
And back to the far left again,
Terry,
David.
you guys got beat in 5 games, but 2 of these games you had. I mean, does that make it hurt a little bit more, a little more regret when you think about the position you guys are in? I mean, being beat in 5 games doesn't really tell the story on the way you guys
Well,
played here.
we did, Dave, but again, that's why it's baseball. That's why you got to play 9 innings. So even though you say we had them, you never have them until that 27th out's made. And we played very well. We pitched very well. Yeah, we're real disappointed. And I know where Ned came from when he talked about how he felt last year. And that's the way we feel right now. I told the guys, this was a time to enjoy it and be proud of your accomplishments. But when you get beat at the end of the season, it's not fun.
And front left.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. What did you say to your team just now?
Well, again, that stuff stays in the clubhouse, but it's the same stuff you would say to them. How proud you are that they played the way they did, the things they accomplished. I went around the room and I told every single guy, Matt Reynolds might be the only exception, but everybody in that room had a piece of it. Kenny had a big night, it won a game for us, be it a pitcher or be it a big hit or something else. Every single guy accumulated something that got us to this point, and so they should all be happy. They need to hold their heads up, and there's 2 teams left, and we were very proud we were one of them.
And on the left aisle again, Phil.
Terry, on the situation with Cespedes fouling the ball off his knee, what went into that discussion, and were you surprised that he came out kind of limping like he did out of the box there?
Well, again, I hate to tell you, I've done that before. Not as hard as I didn't hit it as hard as he does, but in that particular situation, to pinch hit somebody right there is, with it counts 0-2 against, that's a tough spot against Herrera. So he said he was okay, he thought he could hit, and at least he had a little feel for the game, and we're just looking for a sac fly there anyway. But when he popped up, I knew he was done when he came out of the batter's box. I just thought if he could, get us a sac fly and get a run, it would help. But fortunately, Lucas picked us up.
And standing here on the right.
With so many guys playing more games than they ever had, throwing more innings than they ever had, what have you learned about your group this year?
Well, again, I congratulate the coaching staff on the job they did because they kept these guys healthy and they kept them strong. Now I think the one thing we need to concern ourselves with is how they're going to be in spring training. It's going to be a short off season for a lot of them, and just as you said, they pitch more innings than they ever have, and so my concern is, what they're going to be like when they show up in spring training, and when those arms going to bounce back. So. But those are all things we'll find out as the future comes. But I tell you one thing: they learned one thing. They learned how to get through this. They learned how to get through a long season. They learned what it's like to play in October, and they're going to be a lot better because of this experience.
And last one over to the left.
Terry, as you know, sometimes good coaching and managing is listening to your best players. When one of your best players says he needs to be out there, and you have 48,000 people chanting for that, what outside of the result tells you that was a mistake, or is it just the result?
Well, again, sometimes you let your heart dictate in your mind. Again, we had said going in, if Matt gave us 7, Jurice was going to pitch 2. I got one of the best closers in the game, and I got him in the game, but it was a little late, and that's inexcusable for me. And again, Matt will tell you different because he's a tremendous human being. He's going to say how he wanted to be out there and should be out there. I mean, Dan said the same thing. This guy, he's throwing the ball great, but I know if we would have put Jurice in, if he had gave up the 2 runs, you should have left Harvey. And I understand how it goes, but we kind of set this up that. So I won't be sleeping much the next couple of days. I'll tell you that.